All right, imagine this. You got a newspaper, right? Maybe it's filled with boring stuff about the economy or whatever. Or maybe it's got pictures of cats, who knows? Anyway, you take this newspaper and you start chopping it up. No, I'm serious. Scissors, razor blades, whatever you got. Chop it into little pieces, words, phrases, the whole shebang. Now here comes the fun part. You take those chopped up bits and you toss them in the air. Let them fall where they may. Pick them up, lay them out, whatever. Boom! You got yourself a brand new text, man. Sentences that don't make sense, words colliding, pure chaos on a page. That, my friend, is the cut-up technique in all its glory. It might sound crazy, like something you do after one too many whiskeys. And you know what? You wouldn't be wrong. But there's a method to this madness, a kind of drunken genius, if you will. So, back in the 50s, there was this artist cat named Brian Gysin. Now, Brian was a painter, a poet, a true Renaissance man. You dig? One day he's in his studio, just chilling, maybe listening to some jazz. Who knows, he's about to cut some paper for a collage, right? But instead of using a clean canvas, he's got a stack of newspapers underneath. Brian starts slicing and dicing, and some of those newspaper bits get mixed up with his collage, and he's looking at it like, that's kind of cool. The random words, the jumbled sentences, it sparked something in his brain, like a lightning bolt of inspiration right through the whiskey haze. That's how the cut-up technique was born, my friends. A happy little accident. Or maybe it was the whiskey talking. Either way, Brian Gysin stumbled onto something special. Now, Brian might have stumbled on the cut-up, but he wasn't the first to mess around with words like that. Back in the Roaring '20s, there was this group of artists called the Dadaists. They were all about chaos, absurdity, thumbing their noses at the establishment. Real rebels, you know. One of these Dadaist cats, Tristan Tzara, came up with this idea for a poem. He called it Simultaneous Poem, and it involved a bunch of people shouting random words at the same time. Pure chaos, pure noise, but somehow it worked. It was art, man. So even though the Dadaists didn't exactly use scissors and glue, their spirit of randomness and rebellion, that's the same DNA that runs through the cut-up technique. It's about breaking the rules, man, and seeing what happens when you do. Now, Brian Gysin, he meets this other writer dude named William Burroughs. Burroughs was a Beat Generation icon, famous for his wild stories and his even wilder lifestyle. He was a key figure in the counterculture movement. And let me tell you, these two, they were two peas in a pod. Both brilliant, both a little bit crazy, and both loved a good cut-up. The cut-up technique was a way to break free from traditional narrative structures. Gysin showed Burroughs his technique, and Burroughs was hooked. He started using it in his books, chopping up his own writing, mixing it with newspaper articles, even throwing in bits of other people's novels. This method allowed for a new kind of storytelling. His books became these wild, hallucinatory journeys through language, like a roller coaster ride through a dictionary that's been hit with a shrink ray. Together, Gysin and Burroughs, they became the godfathers of the cut-up. They didn't just stop there, they pushed the technique further, experimented with it, turned it into an art form. They explored its potential in various media. They were like the Lennon and McCartney of chopped-up literature, except instead of writing catchy tunes, they were creating literary chaos that would blow your mind. Their collaboration left a lasting impact on the world of literature and art. Section 5, movies. Yeah, they cut those up too. You see, the art of cutting isn't just confined to paper and text. Now, Gysin and Burroughs, they weren't content with just cutting up words. They were pioneers, always looking for new ways to push boundaries. Oh no, these guys were ambitious. They wanted to explore the very fabric of storytelling itself. They figured, if you can cut up text, why not cut up movies too? Why not take the same chaotic energy and apply it to the moving image? And so, they grabbed their cameras, some film reels, and probably a bottle of something strong, and they got to work. They were ready to experiment to see what new forms of expression they could create. They made this short film called The Cut-Ups, and it's a real trip, man. It's a visual and auditory experience like no other. It's got these jumpy images, random phrases flashing on the screen, and Burroughs' voice narrating the whole thing in this eerie monotone. It's disorienting yet fascinating. It's like a fever dream you might have after watching too much late-night TV. It's surreal. almost like stepping into another dimension. Now, the cut-ups? It wasn't exactly a box office smash. It didn't draw in the crowds like a Hollywood blockbuster, but it was groundbreaking. It challenged the norms and opened up new possibilities for filmmakers and artists alike. It showed that the cut-up technique, it wasn't just limited to words on a page, it could transcend mediums, offering a new way to look at art and storytelling. It could be used to create art in any medium, even something as complex as film. The legacy of the cut-ups lives on, inspiring artists to this day to think outside the box and embrace the unexpected. Section 6. But why though? Now you might be thinking, okay, but why all the cutting and chopping? What's the point of all this chaos? And that's a fair question, my friend. But to understand the cut-up, you've got to understand the minds of Gysin and Burroughs. See, they believed that language, the way we use it every day, it's all a big control system, man. It boxes us in, limits our thoughts, keeps us from seeing the world in new and exciting ways. The cut-up, for them, it was a way to break free from that control, to shatter the language barrier and unleash the subconscious mind. They believed that by chopping up language and putting it back together in random ways, you could create new meanings, new connections, even tap into hidden truths that were buried beneath the surface. It was like a form of literary alchemy, transforming words into something new and unexpected. Section 7, still relevant like today. Now, you might think that the cut-up technique, it's just a relic of the past, something that only beatniks and avant-garde artists cared about. But you'd be wrong, my friend. The cut-up is more relevant than ever, especially in our digital age. Think about it, we're constantly bombarded with information, snippets of text, images, videos, all vying for our attention. Our brains are like cut-up machines, constantly processing and rearranging this flood of data. Sound familiar? The cut-up technique, it reflects the way we experience the world today. It's fragmented, non-linear, and full of unexpected juxtapositions. And just like Gysin and Burroughs used the cut-up to challenge the way we think about language, we can use it today to challenge the way we think about information, about art, about the world around us. Section 8. Give it a whirl, you dig? Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds pretty cool, but I'm not exactly a beat poet or a film director. Can I still try this cut-up thing? And the answer, my friend, is a resounding yes. You don't need fancy scissors or a film crew to get your cut-up on. You can do it right now with a pen and paper, or even on your phone. Just grab some text, any text will do, and start chopping it up. Rearrange the words, create new sentences, let your imagination run wild. You can even find websites and apps that will do the cutting and rearranging for you. It's like magic, but with less smoke and mirrors and more literary mayhem. Section 9. The legacy of chaos, sweetly seasoned with genius. So, the cut-up technique, it might seem like a bunch of random nonsense at first glance. You see these scattered pieces and it feels like chaos, pure and simple. But beneath the surface, there's a real beauty to it, a kind of chaotic genius. It's like finding order in the disorder, a hidden pattern in the randomness. It's about breaking the rules, challenging conventions, and finding new ways to express ourselves. It's a rebellion against the mundane, a shout against the ordinary. And that's the legacy of Brian Gysin and William Burroughs. These two visionaries dared to see the world differently, to cut through the fabric of reality and stitch it back together in unexpected ways. They showed us that art can be found in the most unexpected places, even in the jumbled fragments of a newspaper or a film reel. They took what was discarded and turned it into something profound. They taught us that sometimes the best way to find meaning is to let go of control, to embrace the chaos, and to see what emerges from the wreckage. It's about trusting the process, even when it feels uncertain. Their work continues to inspire artists and writers today, reminding us that the possibilities of language are endless as long as we're willing to experiment, to take risks, and to never be afraid to cut things up and see what happens. It's a call to creativity, a challenge to push the boundaries of what we think is possible. Section 10. Go forth and cut, my friends. So, there you have it, my friends. The cut-up technique, a little bit of history, a little bit of madness, and a whole lot of creative potential. So next time you're feeling stuck, uninspired, or just plain bored, grab a pair of scissors, a pen, or your phone and start cutting things up. You never know what kind of literary gold you might find hidden beneath the surface. And hey, if it's good enough for drunken Morgan Freeman, it's good enough for you. Now go forth and create some beautiful chaos.